Hello everyone, welcome to In Defense of Pleasure. Could bliss be at your fingertips? I'm Stella Anna Sonnenbaum, a somatic sexologist and embodiment coach, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. What would you rather take part in, a boot camp or a pleasure camp? Now strangely, boot camps, for example in fitness studios, seem to be hugely popular. And I must say I've never come across a pleasure camp so far. What's more, you may feel that you would have to atone for guilty pleasures like indulging in Netflix series while snacking on chocolate for an entire rainy weekend. What's your connotation when you hear the word pleasure? Does pleasure have a dodgy reputation? Is it really shallow or dangerous? Or have we just misunderstood it? Over the next 15 minutes, we are going to unpack this, challenge some myths, and explore why pleasure might be more vital than we think. But first, let's warm up with a few quick questions. Here we go. I'll pause for a few seconds after each one while you answer. Question number 1. How true is this for you on a scale of 0 to 10? Pleasure is something we should be suspicious of because it distracts us from what really matters. Hang on to that thought. Question number 2. When was the last time you let yourself enjoy a moment of pleasure, like eating something tasty or feeling the sun on your skin without guilt? No judgment here, it's just a little mirror to reflect on. Question number 3. I feel it's not all right to have pleasure when so much suffering is going on in the world. Is that true for you? If you are yes to this, I get it. However, do we really help the world by depriving ourselves of joy? Question number 4, quick think. What's one small thing that brings you joy through your senses? Maybe a sound, a taste, a texture. Got it? Lovely, keep that in mind. It's your pleasure spark for this webinar. How was that? Hopefully it's got you curious about where we are heading next. Let's dive in. When I searched pleasure online, I found warnings everywhere. It's shallow, it seduces, it corrupts, especially from spiritual teachers who say it pulls us off track. But how do we get to these negative perceptions about pleasure? Pleasure has become tainted by, I would say, 3 concepts: hedonism, indulgence, and thirdly, selfishness and guilt, which plays into both of these. Hedonism is about seeking pleasure in life above all else, and Viktor Frankl was probably right when he discussed this stance in his book Man's Search for Meaning. He said, when a person, cannot find meaning, he numbs himself with pleasure. Pleasure can be an easy go-to, and we may miss out on finding a true and meaningful path when we distract ourselves constantly. Consumerism targets us with promises of pleasure, and that donut that tastes so good may make us miss out on a more substantial and sustainable breakfast, which can also be pleasurable. There is, by the way, another kind of hedonism where long-term pleasure is seen as more important than short-term pleasures. This is about developing awareness, not about depriving ourselves donuts, though. Think about toddlers. The world is their oyster, and mum and dad are there just for them. Toddlers take great delight in all kinds of pleasure via their senses, until mum comes along and sets a boundary because that interesting thing that takes their fancy costs £4,000. Later on, they learn to sit still at school, pay attention and get good grades. They defer their need to move and run around to the break times. Don't get me wrong, we all need to learn to be respectful and kind people and not be distracted by everything all the time, but can we also find back to the direct sensory pleasure we had as children naturally? So is pleasure itself the problem, or is it how we've been taught to see it? I say it's time to question that bad rep and to give that gatekeeper that's stifling our joy a talking to. Here's a different lens. Pleasure isn't just indulgence, it's built into us. Even a single-celled organism moves towards food and away from danger. Preference is an action. For us, pleasure's a signpost. Picture this. I'm writing, but I'm distracted by hunger. I haven't eaten breakfast, so I head to the kitchen. I scan my options. A banana with nut butter catches my eye. That yellow peel pops. The peeling sound satisfies, and the texture as I eat, pure joy. My body's happy after, not too full, just right. That's pleasure guiding me to balance, not chaos. Our senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, even interoception, feeling hunger or fullness, they are tools for well-being. Pleasure is the opposite of pain. It's healing. What do you think? Could pleasure be your ally, not your enemy? So why don't we feel more of it? We've got this pleasure glass ceiling. We defer it for work or it feels overwhelming. But what if we explored it safely? Imagine closing your eyes to heighten your senses. Maybe someone guides you to a comfy seat, blindfolded, and offers a sensory menu, a soft fabric, a warm sip, a gentle sound. Or using breath to amplify a sensation until you find a pleasure zone you didn't know existed. This isn't about excess, it's about tuning in. Pleasure's a gift of being human, and we are missing out because we keep it at bay. Ready to lift that ceiling just a little? Could pleasure be at your fingertips? Follow me on a short embodied meditation for just a few minutes. Are you sitting comfortably? I invite you to put one hand just underneath your belly button and the other hand on the middle of your chest, closing your eyes. And to connect to your natural breath, and you can feel it with your hands in your abdomen and in your chest. That breath is there for us from the moment we were born until the moment we take our very last breath in this lifetime. And it's there all the time, 24/7, whether we are aware of it or not. Whether we are awake or asleep, breath is breathing us. And so now I invite you to take the hand off the chest and to put it on top of the other hand so that both hands are resting underneath your belly button. And just noticing whether your natural breath can actually arrive in your pelvic bowl. Now, I would invite you to find one place in the body that feels a little bit less at ease. Just one place that feels a little bit less at ease. Just staying with that, being curious about it. Allowing yourself to feel that place that feels a little bit less at ease. And now I would invite you to find a place that's feeling really well, that's at ease. And I would invite you to use the breath to breathe pleasure and ease in, taking it to a deeper place. maybe in your mind you can find a word for that feeling of ease or well-being. How would you describe that? Now come back to the place that felt less at ease. And feel the place that was at ease at the same time. So you feel both places at the same time. Breathing both in sensations. And just notice if there's any change in the place that felt less at ease. Maybe, maybe not. Another breath. And so now I invite you to very, very slowly take your hands apart so that they are drifting apart. And at the same time, keeping the contact with whatever you're wearing underneath your belly button. And feeling whatever's underneath your hands, your fingertips. Very slowly, as if each moment was taken out of time, timeless. And using the breath to breathe these sensations in. Curious. And then placing the hands maybe on your thighs if that feels comfortable. And just notice when you move your hands on your thighs very, very slowly. Can your hands and fingertips feel? And what can your body feel underneath? And again, using the breath to breathe those sensations in, cultivating curiosity, newness, being mesmerized, as if you were touching those places for the very first time. Another deep breath. So now I invite you to follow me on a visualization. So maybe for now, rest your hands. Imagine that you grew up in a completely different place, in a completely different society. A society that was closer to nature, that didn't have consumerism. A society where pleasure mattered. A society where dancing and celebration was just as important as work. Where the gift of life was treasured. Where others were respected, including children. Where children could move around freely and learn and play and discover. Where there were no schools where you had to sit still. Where our humanity was honored at all times. And children would grow up and copy the adults, as children do, with curiosity, with creativity, and taking part in the dancing, in the celebrations. What would your relationship with pleasure be had you grown up in a society like this? for the time being, just notice the feeling in your body. Does your body feel different after our short touch meditation and after our visualization compared to the beginning of this webinar? Just take a few breaths to savor that. Are there places in your body that feel at ease now and pleasurable? Coming back to the screen. So is pleasure a good word? I'd say yes. It's a guide, a healer, a way to know ourselves, a beacon to find back home to ourselves. And I want you to claim it. And that's why I created my online course for women. Fall in love with the woman you are. It's for women like you, ready to break through that pleasure glass ceiling. We'll dive into de-armoring to release tension, touch education to reconnect with your body, pleasure exploration to rediscover joy, anatomical exploration to understand yourself deeply, and a visualization to meet your bold, vibrant future self. It's about balancing pleasure with purpose, mindfully, safely, powerfully. If this webinar stirred something in you, join me. Click on the link to sign up, and I'd love to guide you on this journey. For now, try this. Take that pleasure spark from the question and savor it today. No guilt. You're worth it. Thanks for being here. I'm Stella Anna Sonnenbaum, and I can't wait to see you in the course. Bye for now.